The world of modern royalty is often perceived as a gilded fairy tale, a realm where ancient traditions, unyielding protocols, and magnificent ceremonies dictate every aspect of an individual's existence from the moment of their birth. We look at palaces, glittering tiaras, and meticulously orchestrated public appearances, imagining a life of absolute privilege and effortless romance. Yet, behind the heavy iron gates and beneath the weight of centuries-old heritages lies a far more complex reality, one where personal happiness and individual desires must constantly battle against the crushing expectations of an entire nation. For those born into these historic lineages, love is rarely a simple matter of the heart. It is a matter of state, a subject of intense public scrutiny, and a potential catalyst for national debate. Throughout history, we have witnessed crowns being laid down, alliances being shattered, and lives being permanently altered, all for the sake of affection. It raises a profound question that continues to fascinate society this day. How much is one truly willing to sacrifice for the person they love? When the choices are laid bare and the ultimate price of personal devotion is the total surrender of one's identity, status, and the only world they have ever known, the true strength of a bond is put to the ultimate test. It is this captivating struggle between duty and desire that forms the backdrop of our story today, a narrative so intense and deeply personal that it captured the attention of the global media and divided a society. If you find yourself drawn to these deep, unfolding human dramas that challenge the very foundations of tradition, consider subscribing to our channel to stay updated on this and many other fascinating stories from around the globe. To truly understand the magnitude of the events that were about to unfold, one must first look at the unique environment of the setting, an institution that stands as one of the oldest continuous hereditary monarchies in the entire world. This is a place where continuity, discretion, and absolute adherence to custom are not just valued, but are considered essential to the very survival of the cultural fabric. Every movement is watched, every gesture is analyzed, and the public expects its symbols of heritage to embody a flawless, unchanging ideal of grace and restraint. In such an environment, the introduction of any element that deviates from the established norm is met with immediate caution. The lives of the young royals are mapped out with precision long before they can even comprehend the concept of a destiny. It was within this atmosphere of profound historical weight and constant observation that a young woman grew up, surrounded by the quiet elegance of the imperial court, yet perhaps harboring a quiet longing for a life defined by her own choices rather than her lineage. Her positioning within the family structure meant that while she carried immense responsibility, she also faced unique legal and social constraints that did not apply to her male relatives, creating an underlying tension that would eventually come to define her future path. The turning point of this narrative began far away from the secluded palace grounds. In the relatively ordinary and vibrant setting of a university campus where young minds gather to contemplate their futures and discover who they are, away from the watchful eyes of their families. It was during a standard campus meeting designed to discuss international exchange programs that two worlds unexpectedly collided, altering the course of multiple lives forever. On one side was a young woman accustomed to the highest levels of societal deference, and on the other was an ambitious, driven young man from a modest background, working tirelessly to carve out a successful future through sheer determination and intellect. Their initial interaction was brief, a chance encounter in a crowded room where she happened to find a seat directly behind him, yet it sparked an immediate and undeniable connection that transcended their vastly different backgrounds. She would later recall being instantly drawn to his exceptionally bright and warm demeanor, describing it as something akin to the sun, a vibrant energy that offered a stark and refreshing contrast to the formal, often rigid interactions that had characterized much of her upbringing. As they began to talk, share their aspirations, and spend time together away from the immediate pressures of their respective lives, a deep bond began to form, rooted in mutual respect, shared intellectual curiosity, and a profound sense of comfort that neither had easily found elsewhere. As the relationship deepened over the following months, moving from casual campus encounters to a serious and committed partnership, the young woman discovered qualities in her companion that solidified her belief that he was the person she wanted to walk through life with. She found him to be a deeply sincere, strong-minded, and exceptionally hard-working individual who possessed an incredibly big heart, someone who viewed her for who she truly was as a person rather than the title she carried. However, maintaining a romance under such unique circumstances was never going to be easy, and their commitment was soon put to the test by the harsh realities of geographical separation. Academic pursuits demanded that they travel to opposite sides of the globe, with her pursuing advanced studies in the historic institutions of Great Britain, while he traveled across the Atlantic to immerse himself in the competitive educational landscape of the United States. This period of long-distance romance required an immense amount of trust, constant communication across vast time zones, and a shared vision of a future together that kept them grounded despite the physical distance and the very different worlds they were navigating. It was during these quiet years of separation, away from the prying eyes of the media and the expectations of the court, that their love matured and solidified into an unbreakable resolve. Upon their return, the strength of their connection was undeniable, and the young man decided to take the ultimate step to secure their shared future. During a quiet evening following a private dinner, away from the glamour and protocol of the court, he proposed to her, asking her to join him in a life that they would build entirely on their own terms. Her response was an immediate and joyous affirmation as she saw in him a partner with whom she could truly share her future, a sanctuary of understanding and support in a world that was becoming increasingly complex. With their minds firmly made up, the time came to take the relationship public and seek the necessary familial approvals, a step that would inevitably thrust their private happiness into the relentless glare of the public spotlight. When she introduced him to her parents, she did so with a sense of pride and profound certainty, presenting him not just as a suitor, but as the essential foundation of her future life. The initial announcements were filled with optimism, capturing the hearts of romantic onlookers who saw in them a modern, refreshing reflection of young love, breaking through traditional barriers. Yet, even amidst the early celebratory atmosphere, subtle undercurrents of doubt and resistance were beginning to form within the traditionalist elements of society, hints of a gathering storm that would soon challenge their resolve in ways they could have never anticipated, setting the stage for a dramatic confrontation between the unyielding forces of ancient heritage and the unstoppable power of human devotion. The announcement of their engagement in the autumn of 2017 initially filled the public sphere with a wave of warmth and celebration, as many viewed the impending union as a beautiful, modern evolution of an ancient institution. Images of the young couple sitting side by side, radiating happiness and speaking of their mutual admiration, captured the imagination of onlookers worldwide. They spoke of a future built on shared values, intellectual partnership, and a deep emotional anchor that had already survived years of long-distance separation. For a brief moment, it appeared as though tradition and contemporary romance had found a harmonious middle ground, and the path forward seemed clear, paved with the blessings of the imperial family and the goodwill of a fascinated public. However, this serene period proved to be the calm before a devastating emotional and social storm. The reality of entering the public eye as a prospective member of the world's oldest monarchy means facing an unprecedented level of scrutiny, where every aspect of one's background, family history, and personal conduct is dissected with microscopic intensity. It was not long before the initial euphoria dissolved, replaced by a relentless media campaign that would completely alter the trajectory of their lives and test the very limits of their endurance. The catalyst for this dramatic shift in public sentiment emerged from an entirely unexpected source. Far removed from the young couple themselves, yet intimately tied to the social standing of the prospective groom, investigative journalists and tabloid publications began digging deeply into the background of his family, eventually unearthing a complex and deeply private financial dispute involving his widowed mother and her former fiancé. The dispute, which centered on a sum of money advanced during their past relationship to cover educational expenses, was quickly elevated by the press from a private domestic disagreement into a massive national scandal. The media framed the issue not merely as a legal or financial matter, but as a profound question of character, suggesting that the young man's family lacked the impeccable moral rectitude required to associate with the imperial lineage. Headlines grew increasingly sensationalized, and the public, fueled by a constant stream of speculative articles and talk show debates, rapidly turned against the match. What had once been celebrated as a refreshing romance was suddenly viewed through a lens of deep suspicion and intense hostility. Transforming a young law student overnight from a respected suitor into an object of widespread societal disapproval and relentless criticisms, the psychological toll of this unrelenting public campaign was immense, creating an atmosphere of overwhelming pressure that began to affect the physical and emotional well-being of the young princess. Surrounded by a court that prioritized absolute discretion and faced with a public that seemed to demand the cancellation of the union, the couple found themselves in an incredibly isolating position. In response to the growing furor and to allow time for the financial matters to be addressed away from the daily media frenzy, the decision was made to postpone the formal wedding ceremonies, a move that only invited further speculation and media commentary. Recognizing that the intense focus within their home country was making it impossible to find any semblance of peace or to pursue his professional goals, the young man made the difficult decision to temporarily leave the country. He relocated to the United States to immerse himself in an intensive law school program in New York City, seeking to build a solid professional foundation that would allow him to support his future wife independently. This departure marked the beginning of another long, grueling chapter of separation for the couple, one defined by vast geographic distance, intense loneliness, and the realization that their battle for happiness was far from over. Even with thousands of miles between them, the scrutiny did not diminish, and the media continued to track their every move with an almost obsessive dedication, waiting for any sign of weakness or failure. For 3 long years, they navigated this high-stakes long-distance relationship, communicates across oceans while enduring constant rumors regarding the stability of their bond and the likelihood of an eventual separation. The young man threw himself into his legal studies, facing the immense pressure of preparing for a highly competitive career while carrying the weight of a national controversy on his shoulders. Back home, the princess maintained her quiet dignity, fulfilling her official duties with grace despite the immense internal distress caused by the continuous public debate over her personal choices. The true depth of their commitment became undeniable during this period, as the distance failed to erode their trust or their shared vision of a life together, proving that their connection was built on a foundation far deeper than mere youthful infatuation. They were 2 individuals weathering a historic storm, united by a quiet resolve to protect their relationship at all costs, waiting for the moment when they could finally reunite and claim their shared destiny. When the time finally came for his return to his homeland, to finalize the marriage arrangements, the media circus reached a fever pitch, illustrating just how deeply entrenched the public hostility had become. As he stepped off the airplane, the cameras did not focus on his academic achievements or his readiness to wed, but rather on an entirely superficial aspect of his appearance that sent the press into an absolute frenzy. He had grown his hair long and tied it back into a neat ponytail, a stylistic choice that was immediately seized upon by traditionalists and media commentators as a shocking sign of disrespect and a blatant defiance of conservative societal expectations. Major news networks dedicated hours of airtime to analyzing his hairstyle, debating whether a man with a ponytail possessed the dignity and reverence required to marry into the imperial family. The sheer absurdity of the controversy highlighted the impossible standards to which he was being held, where a simple personal grooming choice could be interpreted as a national affront and used as ammunition to question his worthiness. Yet, beneath the superficial media storm, this moment signaled a profound shift. It demonstrated that the couple was no longer willing to bow to the rigid, arbitrary expectations of an external audience, foreshadowing the radical and independent choices they were about to make to secure their freedom. Despite the unprecedented wave of public criticism, the relentless media scrutiny, and the absurd controversies surrounding their personal choices, The unyielding bond between the princess and her companion ultimately triumphed over every obstacle. On a historic Tuesday, after years of emotional turbulence and forced separations, the couple officially solidified their commitment in a manner that defied centuries of imperial tradition. There were no grand palace processions, no elaborate ancient rituals, and no cheering crowds lining the streets of the capital to celebrate the union of a royal daughter. Instead, choosing a path of absolute simplicity and profound personal autonomy, they bypassed the traditional Shinto wedding ceremonies entirely, opting to walk into a local government office to register their marriage as ordinary citizens. By doing so, under the strict laws governing the imperial household, the princess knowingly and willingly surrendered her royal title, her status, and her official position within the monarchy, effectively stepping down from the pedestal of her birth to marry the commoner she loved. This profound sacrifice was a powerful testament to the reality that, for her, true fulfillment could not be found within the confines of a palace, but only in a life shared with the person who held her heart. Following the quiet registration of their marriage, the newlyweds stepped forward to face the global press, not as an imperial highness and a suitor, but as a united husband and wife ready to defend their choices before the world. The press conference that followed was a masterclass in dignity, restraint, and raw emotional honesty, offering a rare glimpse into the immense psychological burden they had carried for so long. Speaking with a calm yet resolute voice, the former princess addressed the gathering, describing her new husband as an absolutely invaluable part of her existence. She explained to the world that their marriage was not a reckless act of defiance, but a deeply necessary choice in order to live while carefully protecting their own hearts from the crushing weight of public hostility. Her husband echoed this profound sentiment with equal conviction, declaring his deep love for her and stating his simple, unwavering desire to spend his one and only life with the person he cherished above all else. Their words resonated far beyond the briefing room, signaling a definitive break from the expectations of the past and establishing a new narrative centered on mental well-being, personal freedom, and the sovereignty of love. To fully appreciate the significance of this historic departure from tradition, one must look closely at the remarkable individual at the center of this romantic revolution. Born into the highest echelons of the imperial family, she was raised with a deep appreciation for art, history, and cultural preservation, eventually earning a master's degree in art museum and gallery studies from the University of Leicester in Great Britain. Her academic pursuits and her work as a researcher at a university museum demonstrated a mind that was deeply intellectual, independent, and globally oriented, qualities that undoubtedly shaped her perspective on her own destiny. Her husband, born and raised in a supportive, hardworking household, exhibited an equal measure of resilience and ambition, navigating the intensely competitive worlds of international banking, legal studies, and eventually securing a position at a prestigious law firm in New York City. His journey from a modest background to becoming a licensed attorney in one of the world's most demanding legal markets showcased a strength of character that matched her own, proving that he was more than capable of providing a stable, independent future for them both away from the financial safety nets of the state. The historical implications of their union are profound, as the decision to renounce royalsome status to marry for love reflects a broader generational shift occurring within global aristocratic structures. For centuries, royal marriages were strategic alliances designed to consolidate power, preserve wealth, and maintain the illusion of a flawless, untouchable lineage. However, in the modern era, the intense 24-hour media landscape and the evolving societal values regarding individual rights and mental health have forced a reevaluation of these ancient expectations. This extraordinary love story mirrors other historic moments where individuals chose love over the crown, yet it stands out due to the quiet, dignified determination with which the couple executed their departure, refusing to engage in public mudslinging while firmly maintaining their right to happiness. By declining the massive traditional dowry provided by the state to departing royal women, a sum that would have ensured absolute financial security, The former princess ensured that no one could accuse them of exploiting her lineage, entering their new life with complete financial and moral independence. Today, their lives have transitioned from the restrictive environment of ancient palaces to the vibrant, anonymous energy of a major metropolitan city in the United States, where they can walk down the street hand in hand without the fear of being followed by paparazzi or analyzed by national commentators. This new chapter represents a complete reinvention, a blank canvas where they are free to pursue their careers, build a home, and define success entirely on their own terms. The story of their journey serves as a powerful reminder that the greatest acts of courage often occur not on battlefields, but in the quiet, resolute decisions we make to protect our personal happiness and honor our true selves. It is a narrative that began with a chance encounter on a university campus, weathered a brutal storm of societal judgment, and concluded with a triumphant leap of faith into the unknown. Their love story stands as an inspiring beacon for romantics and modern thinkers alike, proving that even when faced with the grandest traditions of the world, the human heart remains the most powerful and uncompromising force of all.